I'm too pumped up. You know, I've been telling everybody about this, but there's one person I forgot to tell. Do you mind if I'm very close to you? May know him, Dwayne "The Rock."
Hart has ruined more serious Hollywood moments than almost any comedian alive. One second it's a professional set, a red carpet, or a press interview, and the next, Kevin Hart has turned it into unscripted chaos that takes over the internet. From sitting next to Dwayne Johnson in Jumanji, to viral talk show appearances, and even celebrity moments that completely went off script, Kevin Hart doesn't need a setup. He just needs people around him and time. So why does every situation around Kevin Hart seem to spiral into comedy gold? And what do his most iconic unscripted moments actually reveal about him? Join us as we break down Kevin Hart's most legendary unscripted moments. The car seat that started a feud. Nothing in the history of Kevin Hart's career with Dwayne Johnson captures their dynamic more completely than what happened on the set of Jumanji 4 in March 2026. The whole cast was crammed into a car on location. Johnson in the front seat with Jack Black, Kevin Hart wedged into the back with Karen Gillan and Alex Wolff, and Kevin made the mistake of complaining about legroom. Dwayne's response was immediate and delivered with the precision of someone who has been waiting years to use that specific joke in exactly that specific moment. He told Hart that his legs were only 2 feet long.
Who cares? Your legs are 2 feet long.
And every person in the car except Kevin erupted in laughter. Kevin's response was a full profanity-loaded meltdown that Johnson then filmed and posted to Instagram with a caption that became its own piece of comedy gold, describing how he loved his son Kevin Hart with all his heart, but when Kevin got whiny about his car seat, he wanted to slap his little lips clean off his annoying, punchable face. The video accumulated views so fast, it became one of the most shared behind-the-scenes clips in the franchise's history. And Kevin's response was to do exactly what he always does: flip the entire thing around and use it as ammunition. He posted his own video of himself secretly filming Johnson eating lunch during a break on the same set, narrating the whole thing while Johnson sat completely unaware, adding commentary about how important it was not to get dizzy if you skipped your food. The clip went viral with over 83 million views. When Dwayne eventually realized what Kevin had done, he commented from his own account that Kevin should let the man eat in peace with his little tin and his big spoon, back and forth, endlessly, for a decade. One of the more revealing details in this specific chapter was when Johnson posted separately about how difficult it was to listen to Kevin tell a story without every cell in his body screaming at him to make Kevin stop talking. He said he smiled and even offered words of encouragement to make Kevin feel seen. Then he ended the post by saying he could listen to Jack Black tell stories all day. That last line, the compliment aimed at someone else, directly after the gentle evisceration, is the specific comedic weapon Dwayne and Kevin have spent a decade perfecting on each other. It lands because it is delivered with affection. Both of them know the game they are playing. The audience can feel it. That is why this particular friendship keeps producing content that the internet cannot stop sharing. But what happens when the legroom complaint goes to a public platform bigger than Instagram? The roast that nobody was ready for. In May 2025, Netflix held the roast of Kevin Hart live at the Kia Forum in Los Angeles as part of the Netflix is a Joke Festival.
Live from the Netflix is a Joke Festival, welcome to It's the Roast of Kevin Hart.
The panel included Tom Brady, Chelsea Handler, Pete Davidson, Lizzo, Jeff Ross, Tony Hinchcliffe, and Teyana Taylor. The event ran for 3 hours, and funnily, the most common targets across the night were Hart's height, his filmography, and his absentee father. But the two moments that nobody saw coming were not on the confirmed guest list. Dwayne Johnson arrived late in the show, walked into rock music with full pro wrestling showmanship, and announced that he had waited his entire life for the chance to come to a Kevin Hart roast, have fun, and just talk about things. Johnson then proceeded to compliment every woman on the dais before stopping to specifically compliment Kevin's wife, Eniku, who was in the audience. He told the room he wanted to give her a special shout-out. Then he said she had already seen the life-sized Kevin Hart tattoo he had gotten, a joke constructed in such a way that it could only mean one thing, which prompted Kevin to leap forward from his seat and demand to know why Johnson would say that about his wife. Dwayne's defense was that Kevin had told him he could say anything he wanted that night. Kevin's response was that he needed to speak to Johnson privately after the show. The The Eniku moment was the loudest reaction of the night from Kevin himself, a genuine, unscripted burst of outrage that only lasted about 15 seconds before Kevin started laughing because there was genuinely nothing else to do. But that wasn't all, because another guest was coming right up, and this individual had no love lost for Kevin. Cat Williams was the other surprise guest, and he had spent 2024 calling Kevin an industry plant and making extremely pointed public comments about his career and his character. The beef was real. The tension walking into the roast was real. And then Cat got on stage and delivered a set that was reportedly so sharp the room went quiet before it started laughing. What the roast actually accomplished, beyond the individual moments, was something genuinely unusual for this format. It ended the public feud between Kevin and Cat in front of a live audience. Two men who had been saying damaging things about each other in public for a year sat in the same building and found the comedic common ground that apparently had always been available. Kevin and Cat made peace that night.
I want to be a brother, I want to be a friend. Cat, I want to move on. Can we move on, man?
Which means a Netflix roast somehow resolved something that press releases and public statements had failed to address for months. Kevin Hart let people say the worst things anyone had ever said about him, on camera, in front of millions of live viewers, and he sat there and took it and laughed. That is not easy. And it is exactly why the roast format is the highest test of a comedian's confidence. And that same habit of jumping into situations where he might get embarrassed is what makes Kevin Hart so entertaining to watch. He doesn't avoid moments that could go wrong, he walks straight into them, jokes first, questions later. So when he lines up for something like a 40-yard dash against a professional athlete, the only real question is, does he actually believe he can win, or does he just love the chaos that comes after? When trash talk met reality. In August 2023, Kevin Hart challenged former NFL running back Stephen Ridley to a 40-yard dash after what he described as a simple debate about who was faster. Kevin insisted he was pretty fast, and even treated it like a fun ego test. Stephen Ridley, a Super Bowl-winning Patriots back who ran a 4.66-second 40-yard dash at the NFL Combine level, had a very different baseline for what fast means. The race itself was short, informal, and brutally honest. Kevin went all out, trying to keep pace with a professional athlete built for explosive acceleration. Video shared later showed Stephen Ridley pulling ahead quickly, with Kevin pushing through anyway until something went wrong mid-sprint. That something became the turning point. Kevin later revealed he tore his lower abdomen and hip adductor muscles during the run, injuries severe enough to leave him temporarily unable to walk and requiring a wheelchair for recovery. His reaction turned the moment into viral chaos. In an Instagram video, Kevin admitted he had to sit down, describing himself as the stupidest man alive and warning fans that the age 40 is real, insisting people respect it, or it will make you respect it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the age 40 is real. To all my men, women out there that are 40 years old and above, it's not a game. Respect that age.
The recovery period wasn't just physical, it became comedic material. Kevin joked about his condition while explaining the reality of trying to perform an all-out sprint effort at 44, saying it had nothing to do with being in shape and everything to do with underestimating physics. What made the moment stick wasn't just the injury, it was the pattern. Kevin's instinct to turn competition into comedy, even when the punchline is his own body keeping score. And this time, the score was final. That pattern shows up everywhere in Kevin Hart's life. Even when things are supposed to be serious, competitive, or carefully controlled, he turns them into a running joke without even trying, which is why a simple driving lesson on television was never going to stay simple for long. The most chaotic driving lesson in television history. On January 5, 2016, Conan O'Brien's show aired what became one of the most watched segments in the program's entire run, a remote where Conan, Kevin, and Ice Cube attempted to help one of Conan's staff members, Diana Chang, obtain her driver's license.
You see Diana driving? She's a student driver, man!
By accompanying her on a driving lesson in Los Angeles. The moment all three of them got in the car together, the driving lesson became immediately secondary to everything else that was happening. Kevin, Ice Cube, and Conan all tried simultaneously to give Diana advice about how to handle aggressive drivers. None of the advice was practical. Most of it was profane. All of it was delivered with complete conviction by three people who had no business being in a driver's education vehicle together. The group's road trip included a stop at a medical marijuana dispensary, a detour to buy a piñata, an encounter with a bicycle cop that somehow did not result in consequences for anyone, and a final stop at a Popeye's chicken location, which may be the most Kevin Hart way in the world for a catastrophic driving lesson to end. What made the segment work beyond just the chaos of three strong personalities in a small space was the specific dynamic between the three of them. Ice Cube's deadpan calm against Kevin's explosive energy, against Conan's bewildered Midwestern confusion, created a comedy triangle that none of them could have scripted in advance. Ice Cube mocked Kevin's reaction to things, and Kevin screamed at Ice Cube for being too calm. Conan narrated the whole situation with the expression of a man who had made a serious tactical error and was committed to seeing it through. The reason this particular remote became one of the most shared clips of 2016 was that it felt completely uncontrolled in a way that most television is not. Diana's driving was legitimately alarming. The advice was genuinely conflicting. The police encounter was real. Nothing about that segment was sanitized for television, which is why it still gets shared a decade after it aired. Kevin Hart's specific contribution to the segment, his ability to react to things with the full commitment of someone who believes every situation is personally happening to him at maximum intensity, is what gives it the energy that keeps it watchable. But what happens when Kevin's reaction to something gets turned against him in a forum with no safety net? Michael Jordan pissed off in person. One of the most beloved recurring stories in Kevin Hart's relationship with celebrity culture involves Michael Jordan, a man who is, by almost any measurement, one of the most competitive and least easily amused humans who has ever lived. Kevin has told the story of antagonizing Michael Jordan at a basketball game with the specific energy of someone who did not fully process the situation he was walking into. The story was told on Jimmy Kimmel Live and has become one of Kevin's most enduring crowd pleasers, the account of what happens when a very small comedian sitting courtside cannot stop heckling one of the greatest athletes who has ever lived, and then has to deal with the consequences of the man noticing. The specific pleasure of the story is the escalation. Kevin starts from a position of complete confidence. He is Kevin Hart, he is funny, he can handle this, and the situation disassembles that confidence piece by piece as Michael Jordan responds in ways that Kevin did not initially anticipate. The punchline is not a single moment. It is the cumulative realization that there are some people you should not choose as your comedic target when you are sitting close enough for them to look you directly in the eyes. Michael Jordan is those people. Kevin's ability to tell this story in a way that makes himself the fool rather than the hero is the key to why it works. He is not bragging about getting Michael Jordan's attention. He is describing the specific humiliation of finding out that getting Michael Jordan's attention was a significant mistake. Comedians who can do that, who can construct a story in which the audience laughs with them at their own expense rather than at someone else's, are the ones with careers that last. But what does Kevin do when the celebrity in question is someone he has been feuding with, genuinely and publicly, for years? The family dinner that became a Kevin Hart story forever. Kevin Hart has spent years turning family chaos into comedy, but one restaurant story in particular perfectly explains why audiences connect to him the way they do. It is not just that he tells jokes well, it is that he reacts to uncomfortable situations faster than anyone else in the room, usually before people have even figured out what is happening. And according to Kevin, one family gathering spiraled so quickly that it stopped being dinner and became what felt like live-action group therapy. The story starts with a large family restaurant meetup, the kind of gathering where everybody talks over each other before the menus even hit the table. Kevin described the atmosphere as loud, packed, and already chaotic. Then, without warning, his nephew suddenly stood up and made an announcement that froze the entire room. "I want y'all to know I'm gay."
When we walk into the private room, my nephew stands up. He goes, "I brought y'all here because I want y'all to know that I'm gay." It was quick.
According to Kevin, the timing made it even more shocking because nobody was emotionally prepared for the moment. People had barely settled into their seats. Some relatives were still looking at drinks. Others were trying to order appetizers. Then suddenly, the entire energy of the dinner changed at once. Kevin explained that the room went completely silent as everybody tried to figure out how to respond. And because he is Kevin Hart, he immediately felt pressure to become the spokesperson for the table. He is described trying to handle the situation carefully while also processing it himself in real time. For a brief moment, he attempted to shift into supportive family member mode and calm the tension before things became awkward. But the problem with Kevin's family stories is that calm never lasts long. Before the conversation could settle, one of his aunts reportedly decided the atmosphere of honesty should continue. She interrupted with a confession of her own, apparently treating the moment like the start of a family truth session. Hart realized instantly that the dinner was spiraling away from him, and that is where the comedian took over completely. His reaction came without hesitation. "Sit your fata down, Pat." That single line immediately changed the tone of the entire restaurant. Instead of remaining an emotional family moment, the gathering turned into what Kevin described as a full roast session. The tension broke because everybody started laughing, including relatives who moments earlier did not know where to look. Kevin's instinct was not to escape the awkwardness, but to attack it head-on before it swallowed the room. Even at a family dinner, he cannot turn that instinct off. But what happens when Hart is faced with something he genuinely cannot find funny? The wax figure that he called an attack. In March 2026, the Hollywood Wax Museum in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, unveiled a new wax figure of Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart responded in the only way Kevin Hart knows how to respond to anything, with a complete emotional collapse executed entirely for the purpose of being funny. Kevin posted a video of the figure with the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme playing over it, asked the camera what he had done to these people, declared the whole thing an attack, demanded to know who the figure was supposed to be, announced that the museums were specifically trying to make him cry.
"At this point, these museums are just trying to make me cry,"
and said he demanded a redo. Every sentence he delivered was technically the response of a man who was upset. Every sentence was also extremely funny. The genius of the post, and this is the specific skill that makes Kevin Hart different from lesser comedians, is that he understood immediately that the funniest possible response to a bad wax figure was the most outsized possible reaction, not a calm, measured criticism of the museum's craftsmanship, a full spiral. Dwayne Johnson's response in the comments was to say the figure was perfect and that he would not change a single thing. Don Cheadle's response was to simply write 2 words, "Cook him," with fire emojis. Jamila Jamil called it the worst wax figure she had ever seen of anyone. Marcus Houston, the former Sister Sister star, declared that the figure was not Kevin Hart, but a person named Devin Hart. The comment section became its own comedy event entirely separate from Kevin's original post, a crowdsourced roast of a wax figure that nobody believed looked like its intended subject. The museum got more attention from Kevin's meltdown than it would have received from any conventional press coverage. And Kevin got to be the funniest person in his own comments section, which is the whole game. When has Kevin been at his absolute funniest on a massive televised stage with no opportunity to edit or redo anything? The best friend. He can't stop roasting. The Kevin Hart and Dwayne Johnson relationship deserves its own extended examination because it is not simply a celebrity friendship or a professional partnership. It is one of the most sustained, most productive, and most genuinely funny creative relationships in modern Hollywood, and the specific mechanics of why it works reveal something real about what Kevin Hart is actually doing. The social media feud between them is built on a real competitive dynamic. Dwayne almost always has the physical upper hand because the size difference between them is genuinely absurd. But Kevin lands his shots when he connects because he understands where Dwayne's actual vulnerabilities are and aims there with precision. The legroom complaint on the Jumanji 4 set was not random. Kevin has made the height dynamic a running joke for years, which means the moment he walked onto that set and there was literally not enough legroom for him in the back seat, he had already identified it as material before Dwayne Johnson said a word. Dwayne's caption about wanting to listen to Kevin tell a story while resisting the urge to tell him to stop, and the follow-up compliment to Jack Black is a perfect example of the specific move Dwayne uses most effectively. He builds Kevin up enough to make it feel genuine, then deflates it at exactly the right moment, and then pays the compliment to someone else in the same breath. Kevin knows he is being done. The audience knows. Kevin knows. The laughter comes from everyone acknowledging the game simultaneously. Dwayne Johnson's Jumanji 4 car seat video and its viral reach showed fan comments describing the behind-the-scenes content as a movie in itself, that a full documentary of Kevin and Dwayne existing near each other during production would be more entertaining than the finished film. That might be true, but what is certainly true is that their dynamic has produced a decade of content that neither of them could have manufactured alone. What actually makes Kevin Hart funny is not the delivery or the physical comedy or the Instagram presence. It is the fact that he is genuinely, constitutionally unable to let any situation pass without responding to it. He responds to bad wax figures. He responds to insufficient leg room. He responds to Dwayne Johnson eating lunch. He responds to every roaster who comes for him on a Netflix stage. The material finds him because he is incapable of leaving it alone. Which moment on this list is genuinely his funniest? The car seat meltdown on the Jumanji set, the roast that turned into a peace treaty, or the student driver segment that the internet still cannot stop watching? And what celebrity has Kevin Hart never shared a funny moment with that you desperately need to see happen? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.